This is the KoperCrabb Podcast. Oh shit, Navene Koperweis here.
I'm Chaney Crabb.
What? Episode number 3.
That's numero trace.
Coming at ya. Home base for underground musicians. Oh shit.
You busted out the slogan this time.
Slogan reveal.
Oh shit. Episode 3, slogan reveal.
So, we're laughing about that. It is funny. But that really is the point of the podcast for me.
Just the whole slogan reveal. That's what it's all been leading up to.
That's what it's been leading up to. No, to sort of create a place for people that are like us, right? We make not extremely popular music, a place for us to share ideas and sort of have a little support group, if you will.
Yeah, it's a place to hang out.
And so we got the shirts that we were talking about last week.
Episode 3, shirt reveal.
Oh shit, 2 reveals, 1 ep.
Those are soft tees, ladies and gentlemen. Soft tees. You can pick one up at the Entheos merch store, printed by We Need Merch. Ben and Carlos, shout out. They printed them on the softest, finest tees for all of you. Beautiful colors. We will include the link for you to buy that in the description.
Fuck yeah. So yeah, our friends Ben from All Shall Perish. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my mind is like not working today. And Carlos from Antagony, they started a merch printing company. They printed those for us. So you're doing a double support if you buy one of those. You're supporting me and Chaney and
the
Entheos.
band.
So triple support. Supporting the show, supporting the band, supporting Carlos and Ben's side. What the fuck? Their merch company.
Yeah. It's the unholy trifecta.
So yeah, another thing that kind of that I wanted to talk about today was how we could support each other doing this underground music scene. And one way is a lot of people that we run into have their own small business. We've come across so many cool small businesses on the road of friends and musicians and people who support it, who have started their own thing, and it's really cool.
Yeah, you meet all kinds of people on tour. That, to me, is, next to playing music, the coolest part of touring. It may be cooler than playing music.
Yeah, I say it all. I say it all the time. The number one coolest thing about playing in a band is the people.
Absolutely. I've met all of the most important people in my life through music. You, obviously. Most of my friends outside of family members and people who I've known since school. Yeah. My best friend in the entire world, we met at a metal show when I was in 8th grade. Still to this day, my best friend. Everyone. Yeah. Almost everyone I know through music.
Likewise. I mean, I think literally I've said this a lot in interviews. I don't think I've said it on the show yet, but yeah, that's seriously the coolest part. And it's, you meet so many awesome people. And at this point in my life, I've been doing touring for over half my life, playing in bands and going on the road and stuff, that literally everyone who's not related to me, I've met through music. You know, I've met at a show or on tour. And I remember when I was leaving Animals, the one downside that I could think of is that I wouldn't get to tour with BT Bam anymore.
Well, look at you now.
Hang out with them.
Still touring with BT Bam all these years later.
Because those fucking guys are so cool.
They're some of the most fantastic people I've ever met. There's so many bands though that contain the coolest people ever. Yeah. Outside of their ability to play music, just salt of the earth people.
Yep.
Who want to have fun and tour. Not to mention that touring together is such a bonding bonding experience.
Yeah, yeah.
When you are touring in a van with other people, you're bonded for life.
Totally. You get to know them. That's for damn sure.
You get to know them. You get to know every single thing about them. Probably almost better than their parents know them. You're
definitely.
with them 24 hours a day. You know every nook and cranny of their lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really cool. It's been a way to extend like having slumber parties with friends.
Oh yeah.
It's a spin on that.
A million. And another cool thing about BT BAM, when we're talking about supporting small business, Paul's coffee shop.
Paul has a coffee shop
in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And the name is escaping me right now, and I feel like a douche.
I can't remember the name either.
Anyway, we'll put that in the description. We'll talk about it more next week. But
there will be millions of comments. There will be so many comments.
Dude, we came so fucking prepared today. Like all these notes.
We have a ton of notes, but we did not write down Paul's coffee shop.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk more about
delicious coffee. We've been there. We stopped there before we went on Summer Slaughter last year because Summer Slaughter was starting in North Carolina or South Carolina.
Yeah, it started at that the place. It's like a big compound. There's a bunch of venues. Circa was playing on one side.
Yeah, I can't remember that place.
Yeah.
It's a really cool venue.
Suck. We can't remember anything, even though we have fucking 3 pages.
Wait,
of notes.
you're talking about the Whitechapel tour. You're not even.
I know, but it started there.
Really?
I think so.
Huh.
But yeah, so it's cool to see you meet these people, and they start off on their small businesses and stuff, and it's just great to meet all these people and see what they do and get inspired for sure.
Yeah, and you learn a lot about different things that are not just music based.
Exactly.
You meet a lot of cool people touring. I just can't even you meet people from all walks of life, rich, poor, black, white, brown, whatever.
I mean, everybody.
Everybody. You get to be immersed in a lot of different cultural elements all on the road.
Yeah, it's amazing too. Like people will hit you up and say like, when we were in Portland, somebody hit us up. They ran a float tank spot, which I'm not a float tank guy, by the way. I figured out.
I went into the float tank. The reason that
I can't do it.
The reason that float tanks are hard for me is because I personally get motion sickness maybe more easily than anyone I've ever met.
Yeah.
I get horrible motion sickness, and getting out of the float tank was like experiencing the worst kind of motion sickness ever.
Yeah, it screwed me up, and I ran outside and straight up barfed.
You did?
So, yeah, I barfed.
I can't remember if I threw up that night. I throw up after everything, though. I've thrown up after shows, after, I just throw up all the time. I think it's expected of me now. I don't know if I threw up after the float tank. What I will say about that, though, is that being in the float tank, the experience of doing that, it's called the Quiet Center in Portland, by the way.
And a great place.
Go support their business.
Great place, by the way.
Yeah, it was so cool and a great experience.
Yeah.
But
and they support the underground music community.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to get at here in a roundabout
being
way.
in the actual float tank was really fun, and I could see myself doing that again, but I think I would take Dramamine before I did it.
Yeah, and they also say that you got to come a few times to sort of break through,
Oh, really?
I'm sort of a crazy, jittery guy, and I'm extra jittery right now because we're on that freaking ugly mug coffee.
Yeah. About the float tank, though, we figured out that we knew that we were going to go into the float tank later at night, so I'd already shaved my legs that day.
Oh, yeah.
When I got into the float tank, oh my God, my whole body stung. It was horrible.
Because it's like they put like 100 pounds of salt in there.
Yeah.
Or something. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're not discouraging float tank use. It's probably actually awesome. I bet if I did it a few times, it'd be cool, but I was just not used to it. And when like you said, when I turned around in a weird way, and it just spun my brain.
I was thinking it would be fun on a marijuana edible.
There you go. But speaking about small business and getting your brain spun, we're drinking coffee today. We didn't talk about our beverage yet.
Yeah, we're drinking Ugly Mug coffee. Ugly Mug is the name of a coffee shop down the street from our house. Fantastic place.
Yeah, very small, independent, hipster coffee shop.
Hipster.
These dudes, they did no straws before it was cool. But you have a straw.
I have a straw. I have a bone to pick with Ugly Mug. As much as I love that coffee shop, they provide cold beverages in paper cups.
So would you change that out?
So I changed it. I put it into a cup from a less environmentally conscious place just because those cups, I drink my coffee at such a slow pace that those cups disintegrate before I can drink all of my coffee. So I'll find a cup just completely biodegraded on my desk.
I think they were the first
everywhere.
ones that I came across that had the paper straw.
Which
is
also
an abomination.
Suck.
An abomination.
Those also totally suck. Is there a way? I think there's a different kind of straw. Not a paper straw, not a pasta straw.
It's like a biodegradable situation.
Yeah, that's not such a as much of a piece of shit as paper straws are.
But I'll tell you what, Ugly Mug's coffee, it's like a wild ride. I'm feeling crazy.
Me too.
I'm feeling insane.
And
So
I've only drank
I
that
did
much
bring
of
a
it.
little counter activity here, a little counter to that, and it's
Oh.
going to be a beer.
More mind taste.
Yeah. So I'm going to crack that real quick. And then let's get into some of our bands this week.
Oh yeah.
Support the community. And back to my supporting the community thought, we've got a bunch of questions from you guys. We've had more questions this week than any other week. Right, Chaney?
Yeah, so we're going to start them a little early because, like we said, we want to start bringing guests on the podcast. So, these kind of questions that are basically only meant for us, I think we should get through before we start.
Definitely. And we are definitely in the process of starting to book guests. We have had people reach out to us. We have some people in mind that don't know that they're going to be on the show yet, but they're going to be.
We
You know
can
what I
assure
mean?
you they will be. If you guys have any suggestions, people you want to see on the show,
Oh, there you go. I like
write
that.
it in the comments. I saw some suggestions last week, and both of the suggestions I saw, I think, would be fantastic guests.
Totally.
So
And in the Bay Area, I think we can get a lot of people to come on who are somewhat local.
because, like we said, we want everyone to be here in person, have an
Yep.
honest, actual conversation.
With questions from you guys.
Yeah.
The base. This is home base.
Yeah, but
like I said.
also we just want to hang out with them. So
Yeah. We want to hang and shoot the shit, which is what it's all about. So,
Totally.
Chaney, what have we been listening to this week? What do we got?
Well, I wanted to bring up this band that I talk about all the time. I wear their t-shirts all the time. Not necessarily a super underground band, not a metal band. Drab Majesty is who I'm referring to.
There you go. Look at that. If you're watching on YouTube, got the cover right there. It's another new little addition,
There we go.
upgrade to the show. Oh, yeah, I should talk about the wide angle. Fuck it. I put it to bed. It's not working. So, no wide angle.
It has been laid to rest until we buy another camera or decide to use our DSLR. We're
working
the wide
on
angle.
it. Yeah, we're working on that. Bear with me, as I
Hey
said.
man, you guys are along with us on the ride. You're seeing the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
We're 3 episodes in at this point. It's going to be a wild ride, I'm sure. So,
There's going to be some awkward silences.
yeah.
There's going to be some hiccups. But
Sometimes we're going to say and like way too many times
Yes.
in an episode, but
Right.
we can assure you it'll get better. So just stick with us, man.
ride it out. But yeah, this is our show. It's for everybody,
Fuck
it's
yeah,
about
it is.
the struggle of being that underground musician. But yeah, not underground and not metal. We got Drab Majesty.
Back to Drab
Boom, there it is.
Majesty. I would say this is one of the, in Chaney's opinion, ICO, one of the best.
ICO. I like that.
ICO. One of the best modern bands. One of my favorite bands of the last 10 years, Drab Majesty.
Right.
Constant. They are consistently putting out fantastic music.
They really are.
It's a throwback to the 80s. It's like new wave. I don't know. Synthwave, I guess.
Yeah, synthwave.
Fantastic.
We ran into Rob from Fallujah there last time.
Yeah, actually, Rob from Fallujah is why we drank the Cat and Cloud coffee last week, because we ran into him at a Drab Majesty show.
But we didn't shout him out. We fucked him over.
Sorry, Rob, man.
But they're killer. We saw them 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But they have these weird haircuts. Look at this fucking guy's haircut.
I love
What's
the get
the deal
up.
with that?
I love the get up.
I didn't know that going into it.
When we went to the show, you did not know that they would be coming out dressed up.
No, I figured they were just hipsters.
I think they have a really good thing going, though, because they were teching themselves without the outfits on.
Yeah.
And, you're like, no one had any fucking idea who they were when they were teching themselves. The show was sold out.
Right.
But when they came out on stage in the full getup, everyone knows.
So it's smart. It's a little money-saving tactic. That's free. You guys wear costumes.
There we go.
And you can be your own tech.
Jesus.
Or you can be like us and just not care and tech yourself and
just be on stage the whole time.
So there's that too. But it was actually a good show.
Fantastic.
I will say that since I get up early a lot when I'm at home, and I actually broke my toe that day at jiu-jitsu, by the time they went on, I was fucking over it. I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And I knew we had an hour and a half drive home. I was like, oh no. So
there's a fantastic Portlandia sketch about the woes of being a 30-year-old at a show.
Yeah, you love this, you love the music, you love the band, you really have been looking forward to the show. But I don't even stay up till 11 on most nights.
Yeah. You get to the show and you realize I'm an elder, and I want to be asleep and comfortable, and I don't really want to stand up this badly.
And I'm like, oh, I'm standing up. My toe is literally black and blue. Remember it?
I remember it, and I also remember that we had feasted at a buffet beforehand.
Oh yeah, so we talk about this a lot on the show. It's probably one of our favorite things in life. Is on Saturday we go out to eat and we go big. That day we decided to go to a all-you-can-eat buffet,
a sushi buffet.
So we were stuffed.
Yeah, so many plates deep at the Drab Majesty show.
Horrible. We played ourselves.
Didn't have any drinks, so nothing to improve the mood.
Right. Yeah, because I had to drive home. It was it's an hour and a half drive.
Right. Great show.
Sounds like we're complaining,
we're
but
old.
We had a good time.
We had a great time driving home and getting into our bed even better. So
best part of that.
I'm sure some of you can relate to that.
Yeah, I bet everyone listening right now is relating.
They're like, yeah, man, we know. So sometimes you realize that, you would rather just be in your backyard listening to an album than experiencing it with 500 other people.
Yeah, but it was a good show, and also the dude's guitar tone. I was really impressed with that. His guitar playing and guitar tone, because it's electronic kind of synthy music, so you don't really think of guitar a lot. I mean, it's there, but it's just a layer. And live, I was like, wow, he's got his thing going on with this guitar. I love it. I was inspired.
It sounded amazing. It was incredible. Great guitar tone. Fantastic performance, too. They really nailed it. Everything sounded perfect. And like I said, that's one of my favorite bands of the modern era.
What did you think about the wigs? What do you rate those?
I really liked those wigs. I was wondering where they got them, if they had to manually go in and cut them for them both to be the same. What's the work on the wig?
I don't know where the wig came about, but this is, if you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at a picture of, this is actually what they wear. They don't wear black. It's like a silver sparkly costume. And then, but they have you can get a feel for this wig. And those of you who are just listening, it's kind of like a Dutch boy haircut. That's the only way I can think of it.
I think that's a very, very good description.
It's a blonde Dutch boy haircut. Like a Quaker or something.
Yeah. Fantastic band. Great haircuts.
Good show. And then another
outfits.
band we wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm representing, you know what I'm saying? Wolf King. What's up?
Loyal to the fucking soil.
Loyal to the soil. Now, this is an underground band, and this is a fucking heavy-hitting metal band who is sick AF. I guess they're kind of like a hardcore-ish power violence, would you call it?
Yeah. I would just go with the more general hardcore term personally, but
it's more
you
like
could
the
key it
dirty
in.
hardcore.
Super dirty hardcore makes me want to work out really badly.
Love these guys. We actually, how long did we tour with these guys for?
We toured with them for
2 months?
almost 2 months straight. We did the full U.S. tour with them and routing dates to and from the U.S. tour with them. And also their guitar player, Jake, has designed a couple of our shirts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He did this album that you're looking at if you're watching the YouTube. If not, well, you're just going to have to look it up for yourself.
Yeah, he's a fantastic artist. I think his Instagram handle is Him Reaper.
We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it in. Go check his stuff out. Those guys are fantastic human beings and fantastic band.
But again, yeah, supporting the underground, get him to make you a freaking design. Boom.
Yeah. And actually, this brings me into a question because someone asked us about moshing.
Oh,
and
shit.
Wolf King is a band that
Wolf King is killer.
fucking moshable.
Definitely check their Loyal to the Soil out. We did a freaking long tour. They live around here, so we're going to get them on the show, but they don't know that yet.
Yeah.
So, Chaney, question.
If they're watching now, they know. I'm looking for the question very quickly because we have a ton of questions this week.
It's going to be a long haul. It's going to be a long episode, Joe Rogan style. But anyway, these...
Oh, here we go. Okay. So, first question. Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. Welcome to the shout out show. Brandon says, when on tour, do you ever want to jump in the pit during the other band's sets, or is it too risky with the potential of getting hurt and then having to drop off the tour?
Damn. Okay, well, we just went over how we could hardly stay awake for
Drab Majesty.
Drab Majesty. So getting in the pit, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely, depending on the amount of alcohol in my system.
Oh, yeah.
Navene, you moshed for Wolf King.
I did.
Very
I did.
hard.
I came out of Mosh retirement for these guys. And they were freaking stoked about it, and so was I. It was awesome.
So every so often, it's really fun to cut loose and mosh.
Definitely.
I've moshed a few times on tour. I've definitely stage dived a lot. I stage dive during our sets as
Guest
much as
vocals
I
sometimes.
can,
They'll have you come out and do a little guest.
and then I'll stage dive. I fucking love stage diving. It's so fun. So I'm more likely to stage dive than I am to mosh. I will mosh sometimes. Because sometimes we go on tour with bands that I've been listening to since I was a teenager.
There you go.
And to not mosh for the Black Dahlia murder, not really a question. I'm gonna fucking mosh for
I hear you
Black
on
Dahlia.
that one. Yeah, I came out of Mosh retirement and fucking went in the pit for Wolf King.
Yeah.
I'd do it again too. These guys are sick. But actually, I think I can remember the time before that I came out of Mosh retirement, and it was way before. It was in, I think, 2007 when my old band Animosity, we went on tour. Our first tour in Europe was with freaking Converge.
Oh,
Get that, right?
moshing.
Yeah, and it was also horrible because those guys are, they were a little older than us at the time, probably in their 30s, I guess. I don't really know. And we were early 20s. So we were like first time in Europe, and they had done a lot of groundwork to get to the point where they could tour in a bus over there. So they had us come with them because Animosity had recorded with Kurt Ballou. And so we're in the bus, and we're like, dude, we're on a freaking bus. Like, I was only 22 or something like that. We're on a freaking bus. We were just getting drunk and shitty and stupid, and they don't even really drink. I think like only one of the guys would drink a little bit. And so we were on the bus being stupid, drinking. I puked one night in my pillowcase.
How did that work?
Okay, so if you're not used to being on a bus, like any type of bus, it's sort of like we were talking about with the motion sickness. Mm-hmm. It's wavy. So I would get super drunk at the show, you know, because it's Europe and they're giving you a bunch of great beer and stuff. Strong beer. And so you think you're good. Then you get on the bus and the thing starts moving and it's like being on a waterbed. It's not good. So I felt kind of nauseous and I'm kind of like you. I don't have a weak stomach, but I'll throw up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that happens. So I run. It's not like uncommon for me to throw up, like eat something weird and go puke or whatever. Anyway, I ran downstairs because the bunks are upstairs and the lounge is downstairs with the bathroom on those buses over there. I run downstairs. Someone's in the fucking bathroom. So to my credit, I made it downstairs. And then I didn't have any choice. I ran back up. I had to fucking throw up. So I threw up in my pillowcase.
How long did it stay in your pillowcase? How long were you holding onto the vomit?
Okay, for like 2 seconds because the drummer of the other band, Rise and Fall, it was a 3-band bus share. He's like, oh man, dude, Navene fucking threw up in his pillowcase, you know? So they stopped the bus and the driver came and got it, was pissed.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think I had to pay like $40 for it.
I bet.
Yeah.
I would never want to be one of those people who puked on, especially a European bus for some reason.
Oh, it was so embarrassing. And honestly, like, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm this crazy party animal guy. It's just, you know, that happened.
No, I feel you. If I get any amount of drunk on tour that's anywhere near the territory where vomiting would come into play, put me in a vehicle, I'm 30 to 40 times more likely to not be able to gain control of myself and to vomit.
It happens. It happens.
It definitely happens. It does.
You know what I always think of when I get into a situation where I drink too much and I vomit? I'm like, I don't know why this always pops into my head, but I'll be doing it and I'll be thinking, wow, I'm such a freaking loser. And then I'll think, this is going to happen again. That's the worst part. You know what I mean? I'll be like, this is not the last time this happens.
Well, you know, you always, if you have like that night where you get a little too drunk, the next day there's always the I'm never drinking again feeling. But you always know that you're definitely going to drink again.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the story.
It is what it is.
This actually started with a story that wasn't about puking. But hold on, before we go, I got another puking story while we're on it. So I went the next tour after that we did in Europe, Animosity. It was sharing a bus with the Red Chord and I think Anyway, there was a bunch of bands on this tour. We were sharing a bus with the Red Chord, and the same thing happened to me. Same thing, because me and Evan were doing this thing where we were like, yeah, let's get wine. You know, and we were like drinking tons of wine.
Yeah, you're fancy.
Yeah, we're being fancy. Mm-hmm. So we drank a bunch of wine, and then the bus takes off. It gets a little crazy. I don't know if I made it to the bathroom this time or what happened, but I was like, I gotta freaking puke. This is terrible. And this time, I had a plastic bag with my dirty clothes in it, and took some casualties on the clothes.
Wow.
Because I puked purple wine onto my dirty clothes. But that time I got away with it. So right now, if anybody on that tour is listening, they're finding out something new. Yeah. I got away with it, and then we had a day off the next day, so I just went and found a laundromat, cleaned everything off. No one knew. Got away with it totally clean.
That's professional. The last time that I was really embarrassed by throwing up, we were on a plane on our way to England to go on tour last year.
Oh, yeah.
And if you know me, I'm horrified of flying. I get severe panic attacks when I fly.
Flying sucks.
So I really need to take a Xanax or some kind of anxiety medication before I fly or drink to ease my nerves, because my nerves are hurting before.
Get a Corona or something.
Yeah, I need a little Corona. So we're on our way to England. We bought a bunch of what we call sneakamins, which are the $1 portions of alcohol. You know, the little vodkas, little UV blues that you can get.
Chaney dubbed them sneak 'em ins because you could sneak them into the club. Like when we lived in LA, we were like broke, so we would just buy like 4 of those and sneak them into the club.
And sneak them the fuck in. So on this flight, I had drank probably 4 sneak 'em ins before we
That's too
got
many.
onto
Chaney
the
also
flight.
weighs like 100 pounds, so.
And then I took a Xanax and I blacked out. I don't remember much of the journey, but Navene remembers it all.
It was horrible. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, because I vomited first. At what point in the flight was I throwing up?
Right when we took off.
Okay.
I was like, this is freaking horrible.
So I was throwing up as we took off on a 13-hour flight in a bag.
No, luckily I came through with the bag. That's the thing. I have Chaney's back on tour. If something weird like that goes down, like she's about to puke or something, I'll be like, I can tell, because we've spent so much time together. So I can tell. I'm like, okay, Chaney's in that vibe. She's gonna throw up. I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm gonna keep an eye on her. And sure enough, I want to make sure that no puke ends up in the van.
Puke patrol.
I'm on puke patrol, man. I do that though. That's what you get. That's what you get.
Yeah.
One of the perks.
Good deal. So I was blacked out for the rest of the flight. Woke up about 30 minutes before we landed safely in London.
Me just sweating bullets.
When I woke up, I thought we were an hour or 2 into our flight. I had no concept of the time we'd spent.
Yeah. I'm like, no, we're here. We're good.
So in my mind, that was the best flight ever. On our way back from that European tour, though, speaking of flights and
Spain
why
thing?
I'm horrified, we were landing in Spain on a layover in Barcelona. The plane is touching down, essentially. Is that what they call it? Landing?
Yeah, landing. Like, we're 2 second. I don't know if this happens to people out there, but this happens to me a lot. Like, I'll be kind of anxious, and then the plane's coming down, and then it gets right before the wheels touch. That's when I go, all right, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah,
making it through this.
So
we were right at that point.
Mm-hmm, we were at that point, and as the plane was at that point, all of a sudden, no warning, the pilot pulls it back up into the air as if we were taking off.
But even more steep. It was like, all right, Navene's feeling pretty good. We're about to land. Nope. Like, straight back. And we're like, what the fuck is going on?
It was horrifying. The pilot never came over the intercom and said a thing.
And everyone's dead quiet, and they're all just freaking scared and whatnot.
Yeah, there was a little bit of nervous laughter going on, but we were all horrified. We flew around the entire city of Barcelona again. My assumption is that we were going to run into another plane on the runway or something like that. Another flight. This will be my last flight story. Navene and I were in a plane. I think we were on our way to Des Moines, where I'm from. And all of a sudden...
Shout out Des Moines. What up?
Shout out to Des Moines.
We love Des Moines, by the way. We love it there.
Yeah. I love Des Moines.
Yeah,
the people of Des Moines. So we were in the air. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the plane takes a nosedive.
We're talking nosedive, like roller coaster style, clutch your pearls, dear Lord type stuff.
Nosedive. Everyone in the plane was silent. No one screamed, but everyone thought we were going to die. We all thought that was going to be the end. And after what I would assume was 5 seconds, probably, it seemed like minutes to me. The pilot kind of got the plane back in air, leveled us back out. Everything was fine. And what we had found out was that we got too close to the plane in front of us.
Oh, that's comforting.
And the airflow knocked us out of the sky, essentially.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Which isn't what you want to hear can happen if you're me and have anxiety attacks flying.
I do not like it. So back to my original story.
Which I can't even remember what it was at this point.
The question was, do you mosh on tour ever?
Oh.
This was the time before Wolf King that I can remember moshing.
Right.
I'm a huge Converge fan. I love them. I've been a fan since I was like 16. So one night the bar was like really close in proximity to the stage kind of. So I'm at the bar. Also Converge is like, I watch them every night. Every single night I would watch them.
Is that the only band you've been on tour with that you've ever watched every single
night?
night?
I like a lot of bands that we've toured with. I watch them a lot, but I have to admit, the only band that I've ever watched every single night was Converge.
I think I may have watched Dillinger every night.
Yeah. Yeah. But that wasn't a full long.
That was only a 2-week long tour.
Not saying I like any band more than the other. Don't get the wrong impression. If I've toured with you and you're watching this.
This is the Don't Offend Anyone show. Shout out.
No, but they were so fun to watch and they sounded awesome and I just
And they're
them.
fucking Converge.
They're fucking Converge, dude. Come on.
It's fucking Converge.
Yeah, I was like, when we got that tour, I was like, I'm going to have so much fun on this tour. I'm going to watch them every night. I'm going to enjoy myself. And I'm glad I did that. And it was my first time in Europe. So I was just, dude, I was having a blast. And I was in my early 20s. I was like 22 maybe.
Living the dream.
Dude, it was awesome. So I'm at the bar. It's close to the stage. We had a bunch of drink tickets, right? I'm just chilling there. I'm getting a bunch of drinks, having fun, feeling loose. I could see the pit, you know? I'm like, I'm getting in that fucking pit. I like ran as fast as I could into the pit, right? As soon as I entered the pit, somebody backhand smack straight to my lip, fat lip. Just ran straight out.
Pit boss, Navene Koperweis.
So yeah, that was the time before that I moshed.
To the rest of the question, yeah. So, to the rest of the question, though, I have never ever thought about my personal safety before jumping in a pit on tour. I've never thought about injuring myself in any way, shape, or form if it were to. In fact,
that's good.
Because I like stage diving so much, the last time I stage dived in Hartford, Connecticut at one of my favorite venues, which I can't remember the name of right now.
Oh.
I was the kids.
Aftershock? That's what it's called?
No, that's Kansas City.
I'm not one of these venue guys. You know how there's people on tour who know every venue? Like they have it on like a 1 second draw. It's just any city you say, you're like, oh yeah, they played over in the Launchpad, of course.
Well, since you just said that, it's called the Webster Theater.
Okay, boom, there you go.
So I'm one of those
bought
guys.
You some time.
So we were playing the Webster, Hartford. I did my stage diving thing, crowd surfed a little. They threw me back on stage. I landed on a monitor, a stage monitor on the sharp corner of the stage monitor
thingy.
Oh my God, worst pain ever.
Yeah.
I could not breathe. I had no idea for about 10 seconds how I was going to make it through the rest of that set. And I had a gigantic blue and purple bruise the next day, but then I got a gigantic hematoma on my leg.
It's kind of still there.
It's kind of still there.
It's like a egg.
And this was 2 years ago. So I should probably get that checked out. If anyone's a doctor, let me know what I should do about that hematoma, because I still don't know.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah. So obviously I have no care for what happens to me at all, ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think about it sometimes, but usually I'm just so doing my like routine on tour that I don't even think to mosh. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let me go watch a quick part of the band. All right, I'm going to go back outside. You know, I have all these little things that I do.
Yeah, it's like
tour.
a special occasion if I'm moshing.
Yeah. And I have to have a buzz. I'm not going in there all sober.
Guaranteed buzz.
Not happening.
If you see me moshing, she's buzzed.
Chaney's having a good night.
Yeah. I've had 2 strong brews.
But let's get into a little bit more of these questions.
All right.
We got some more.
Yeah, where should we start?
I'm kind of blowing it. I didn't even look over the questions before the episode, so these are like, I didn't have time to come up with any clever answers.
All right, I'll ask you one.
Not that I do anyway.
Navene, what inspired you to play drums? Garrett would like to know.
Oh, snap. Okay, so my dad's a drummer. Cat's out of the bag. Wasn't much of a... Not much there. He just asked me if I wanted to play. And I said yes. And what's kind of funny is I kind of hated it. I've wanted to be a guitar player since I was like a really, really little kid. That's what I wanted to do because you're more like, I don't know, the front man, rock star kind of thing, you know? That's like what I wanted. And then he's a drummer. I grew up around a drum set. I've posted pictures of me as a, toddler at the drum kit, which is kind of misleading. I didn't play drums at that point. I never actually played until I was in 5th grade.
What's strange about both of us is there are pictures of both of us from when we're really young with guitars, drums, just all instruments.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, a lot of foreshadowing. Maybe every person has pictures like that because there are a lot of like toddler instruments to play with. But there are quite a few pictures of both of us with real instruments. This kind of takes me into a next question because you were talking about how you originally wanted to be a guitar player. That was your...
Yeah, so I wanted to play guitar. My dad, he just taught me a beat, like a simple beat, like kicks on 1, snares on 3. That's it. And like I said, I thought it was kind of hard. I didn't like doing it, but for whatever reason, I kept doing it. And then after about a month or so, I was ripping it.
That's all that he's practiced ever since that point.
Yeah, that was my formal training was basically kick on 1, snare on 3. That's pretty much all you really need to know.
Yeah,
beyond
for the most
that,
part.
just
wing it.
And then I'd just copy people that I thought were good, like Trey Cool.
Do you think that's your first drumming influence? Because Scott asked about your drumming influences.
Oh, shit.
And then he has a few more questions as well.
Okay. Well, all right. I like where this is going.
So is that your first drum influence? Trey Cool?
Okay, so yeah, probably that or Dave Grohl. If you really think about it. But I probably didn't know their names. I just liked Nirvana a lot, and I liked Green Day. Those are the first bands I listened to, and I would try to play to them.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's about how it goes.
And that's what people ask me a lot, tips and secrets and this and that and the other thing. And for me, it's really just listen to a lot of music, internalize it the best you can, and try to play it. And if you just keep doing that, you're going to build up your own style. Because my style is a copy of maybe I have that more rock attitude because I started off listening to Dave Grohl and Trey Cool. And then I got into... What is the question? My influences? Mm-hmm. Okay, so then from there I heard Primus, which was like, okay, mind blown. And I also really, really liked the tight snare drum. And a lot of people will say that I have sort of like I get the comment a lot, the kind of Navene snare drum, which I don't get. It's just a tight snare drum. That's it. There's nothing to it. But I heard Tim Alexander of Primus play, and that really had a huge impact on me. And, of course, the tight snare drum. After I heard that, I was like, whoa, that's cranked up snare drum. I went home and broke my drum head because I tightened it up and didn't know what I was doing. I, tightened probably one lug super tight.
Yeah.
And then from there, I probably... I don't know. Let's see. After that, I've always been a huge fan of music. So there's always music I really like, and then sometimes I'll really be into the drummer. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't always listen to bands just because I like the drummer.
Yeah.
It's never been like that for me.
I'm like that as well. A lot of bands I just like as bands as a whole.
Right.
Sometimes I enjoy bands because I'm picking out one element of them.
Like if the drummer stands out, then I'll be like, yeah, this band rules for that aspect. But I think shortly after the Primus thing, I got into metal. So yeah, I was probably 10 when I was listening to Nirvana and Green Day, that sort of stuff. Then we cranked it up a notch, 11, 12. I got into Primus. From there, Sepultura. So Sepultura, for instance, like, I loved their music. The drumming, I wasn't like a huge fan of that drummer. I mean, I'm not talking crap about him or anything, but I wouldn't say that drummer, Igor, is like a huge influence on me, drumming wise. But the band as a whole, I mean, come on, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. So I've always more been a music guy over isolating one part about the band.
That also makes sense because you're a songwriter.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
for you to individualize each member, I get why that's not a thing that you do very often.
And he didn't have a tight snare, so it's like
no tight snare.
Already not in.
Oh, there's a fly.
It had to be.
God damn it. Shoe fly. So Scott also asked, does Chaney play?
I wanted to get into this.
Does Chaney play and or really want to learn to play any instruments? And I thought it was funny because you said you wanted to be a guitar player.
Yeah.
What I wanted was to be a drummer. That was what I wanted as a kid. We all know that drums are very expensive. I also wanted to be a vocalist. I didn't know it was a vocalist back then, but I wanted to be a singer or a drummer. Couldn't afford drums. I had a snare drum. And then when I started...
your grandma bought you like sticks and a snare.
Yeah,
right?
My grandma bought me sticks and a snare, and I would just play like on the couch and on the snare to System of a Down or whatever I was listening to. And by the time I was old enough to get into being in a band, though, I think I was in my first band when I was 13 years old. At that point, I was a vocalist through and through. But to answer your question, yes, I do play. I play drums and guitar. I'm not insane at either of them, but I can definitely play. I can play an Entheos riff.
She plays guitar like all the time.
Yeah, I play guitar all the time. I will, in my life, at some point release a solo album where I'm playing all of the instruments. And
post-hardcore solo album.
Yeah. I mean, all of the stuff that I write, because I do write and track stuff, and I have sections of things that I've written, all kind of ends up in that territory. Yeah. Like I said, droney, grungy music is what I really like, and when I'm writing the instrumentals, that's kind of what comes out. So yeah, I play both of them, and I'm going to make the solo album happen in my lifetime, guaranteed. So hopefully eventually you will get to hear that side of me.
Making a solo album is really satisfying, by the way. I recommend people do it.
I bet. And speaking of solo albums, your first one is a band called, it kind of became a band called Flesh Rot with Johnny Davey on vocals, but you wrote all of the instrumentation for that record. And a question that we got this week is from...
It's from Old Nettle Aiden.
I see it.
On the Instagrams.
And he or she, Aiden, says, my question... Tell me everything about the production of the Flesh Rot album, Dementia Dyslexia.
Yeah, this fucking fly.
Yeah, this fly is really harshing my fucking mellow right now.
No
flies can fuck off. If you're watching the video and you're a fly, just off yourself. Fuck you. Commit suicide right now. So if you see us swatting and you can't see the fly, we're swatting at a fly. For our listeners who are not tuning into the YouTube, there's a fly really bothering us right now.
It's like that episode of
Breaking Bad. The number one worst episode of Breaking Bad as well.
It's on your fucking headphone.
I get that they were trying to prove a point. Maybe Walter White was on meth during that episode and inhaled the fumes, but fuck that episode and fuck flies.
Yeah. So, Flesh Rot. That was... I always referred to it as my solo album. I think most people did. It's me and Johnny Davey on vocals. Metal Blade put it out. It's death metal. with a little twist.
It's got a little sexy saxophone twist.
Oh, right.
I think
that's a super popular thing to do.
And cute little story. I think that is how I introduced myself to you, because I was a huge Flesh Rot fan. I think that's why Navene fell in love with me, because
she knows about Flesh Rot.
Yeah, when we met, we introduced ourselves. He says, "I'm Navene," and I said, "I know who you are. You've written one of my favorite albums. It's called Dementia Dyslexia." Flesh Rot, man. I listened to Flesh Rot before Dementia Dyslexia came out. I listened to the MySpace demos.
Damn.
That's I was also a gigantic fan.
Because our mutual friend Dustin, shout out to Dustin Miller.
Shout out to Dustin Miller. Shout out show.
He lives in Iowa, in Des Moines, and he mastered Flesh Rot.
Yes.
So, and you were friends with him, so I'm sure he showed you the album at some point.
Yeah, he showed me the album before it was done.
Advance copy.
Yes.
But anyway, I really wanted to sort of prove that I could make an album to myself, and when I started writing it, it was before I knew how to record. So it was simultaneously writing a crazy death metal album and learning how to record at the same time. And sort of the goal was I want to produce my own album entirely, start to finish. Like do all the instruments, do all the riffs, produce the fucking thing, record it, track it, edit it, do all that stuff myself. We talked about on episode 1 that I'm not a vocalist, no interest in doing it. And I had met Johnny from Job for a Cowboy pretty early on, and pretty early on I knew that I wanted him to be the vocalist. I just thought it would be a cool fit. Well,
he is one of the sickest DM vocalists of all time, in my opinion.
He's great.
ICO,
baby.
One of my favorite vocalists, personally.
So he was down to do it, and it took some time for sure from the start of the inception to finished product. Took a long time.
How long would you say it took?
Golly, I had asked Johnny to do it like when Doom was out, and it didn't actually happen until they recorded what was the one album? Ruination. So however long that is. Because when he came to do vocals for Flesh Rot, he had just finished doing Ruination. And yeah, we did it. It was not a hit. And
it was a hit to me. And I think that there are other people who would definitely agree with that. It was a hit in our hearts.
It's another underground kind of cult listen. But I was listening to a lot of Soul Niger and stuff like that at the time, and
I think
wanted to make sure that it was weird and cool. I'm proud of it. It's a slick album.
As you should be. It's fantastic. I still love that album. And I think that
it's crazy.
When
I listen to it now, I'm like, whoa.
If you're unfamiliar with Flesh Rot, to me, Entheos sounds a lot like Flesh Rot mixed with a bit of Animosity, because even though we began our band with several members of Animosity and now there are not as many members left, you did write riffs
for both
in Animosity, in Flesh Rot, and you now are one of the main riff writer in Entheos. So that's really Navene's influence that you're hearing. You also wrote one entire song by yourself on Waitlist, right?
No.
What was that? There was a song that, speaking of songs that people had before they came out, there was a song, I think it might be called Earth Departure.
It was,
that Dustin had before it came out, and he showed me it as the Animals as Leader song that Navene wrote.
It's, Tosin came up to when I was living in Oakland, and I had probably been in Animals for a little while. We were thinking that we should start trying to write some stuff. So he came up for a couple days to my house, and we wrote that one song together. But it sounds sort of like Flesh Rot mixed with Animals.
Totally.
Yeah.
So if you hear elements of all of those bands, along with the Faceless, which is another band that you've written riffs for.
Yeah.
So if you
Little known fact.
Yeah, you wrote riffs on Planetary Duality, right?
Yeah, I wrote a couple of riffs on there.
So if you ever hear any similarities between our band and those bands,
that's why.
Aside from the fact that, members of our band are from all of those bands, that's a huge reason why, because Navene has written riffs for all of those bands and is the main songwriter in our band.
I riff. If I'm in your band, I'm going to give you some riffs because I write about 10 riffs a week.
Yeah, you riff a lot.
But speaking of riffs, I think the newer release that we're working on for Entheos, it reminds me a little bit more of Flesh Rot. Not the super tech crazy Flesh Rot, but that dark element.
I would say the dark groove of Flesh Rot, the weird groove of Flesh Rot is definitely prominent in the new stuff that we're writing. It is the most reminiscent of Flesh Rot of anything we've done.
I'm super proud of it. I'm proud of it.
It's amazing. It's a journey.
Can't wait for y'all to hear this.
It's
gonna be a while.
It definitely is, but it'll come. That's for sure. So yeah. All right, let's get into some other questions.
But that's Flesh Rot for y'all. If you haven't checked it out, check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out. Their albums,
Spotify.
There are vinyls up online of Navene's that were printed in Navene's blood.
Oh, that's true. We did do that. We drew blood and put it in the vinyl, which you can't get anymore. So
if any of you are good at cloning, take some of the blood off of the Flesh Rot cover, clone Navene, and you can have yourself your very own riff writer.
So on the last show, well, all the shows, I've been mentioning that Chaney has been watching a lot of horror movies because we've been trying to promote these posters, which I'm going to do right now. What up? One time, real quick, we got these super legit Entheos in celebration of Halloween horror movie sci-fi synthwave posters. And we got the shirt as well, which I showed you at the beginning. And one of the reasons why we decided to do this was because Chaney has been watching a crap load of horror movies lately. She's becoming a buff.
Yes.
We have a question from Moist and the Towelettes. I'm assuming that's from Instagram.
Yeah.
Weird name, if it wasn't.
Funny name.
And this person is asking, with it being the season of All Hallows Eve, I was curious to know what your favorite horror movies are. And I'm going to obviously let Chaney answer this.
There are a lot of great horror movies. There are a lot of horror movies that I like for different reasons. My favorite horror movie, I think I'm going to have to put on Jacob's Ladder.
Damn.
I really love movies that deal with life after death, the idea of purgatory. I think that comes from reading Dante's Inferno when I was a kid, having a huge interest in that. Obviously, that's about hell, but...
The thing is, when you're in purgatory, that's kind of ghost mode, right?
Correct.
And I know that you're super scared of ghosts.
I am super scared of ghosts. Ghost movies are the one thing that still really scare me. I can watch any gore movie that you throw my way.
Yeah. It's the ghosts.
The other day I watched this movie, a French movie called High Tension, fantastic horror movie where the serial killer looks like Donald Trump. Really super gory movie. You see heads explode and things like that, and that doesn't bother me at all. The idea of the paranormal still really freaks me the fuck out because it's not anything that I can stop or it's just not in my control. And I have had lucid dreams before where I will see something or feel like something is in the room with me. Still really freaks me out.
Was it like a night terror?
It's not the same as a night terror. I think that a night terror is specifically being terrorized in a lucid dream.
Paralyzed and you can't move.
Yeah. So
Which
maybe
I've had that a couple times.
I've had that too.
Sucks.
One time when I had that, because our bed is right next to a door. One time when I was having a lucid dream or night terror, if they are the same thing, I was in our bed and there were people knocking on the outside of the door and police red and blue lights flashing outside of our door.
Yeah, that's night terrors.
Yeah, so I have night terrors sometimes.
It's like you can't move.
Right.
You feel like you're awake, but you can't move, and something's trying to get into your house, or there's an emergency happening.
Oh, right. This is what a night terror is.
That's a night terror.
Lucid dreaming is being awake in your dreams.
Exactly.
Okay, right. So I had it all mixed up. I have night terrors.
Yeah.
So I don't really like paranormal things. I still watch the movies. That's fine. But The Sixth Sense scares the shit out of me to this day.
I'm still trying to get you to watch El Orfanto.
Yeah, I won't watch El Orfanto, Guillermo del Toro, but I did watch Devil's Playground, I believe is the name of the other movie that he has that's about a haunted orphanage.
Oh, you watched
the
that
same
one
idea.
already.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay.
Devil's Playground or Devil's Backbone. Sorry, great horror movie. But Jacob's Ladder, I'm going to go with being my number one. Fantastic movie. Check it out if you haven't. Rosemary's Baby, fantastic classic horror. Obviously, all of the Evil Deads, all of the trilogies and things of the 80s and 90s, and
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness is hilarious movie.
It's great. What about Leprechaun series? How do we feel about that? I love Leprechaun.
Leprechaun Back to the Streets.
Leprechaun in the Hood.
Leprechaun. Oh, that's what it's called. Leprechaun in the Hood. Yeah,
He's got like
funny.
he rolls up like a 4-leaf clover joint.
Yeah, it's a funny movie for sure. It's got its place. I think I love The Exorcist. That thing. I think that The Exorcist 3 is a real standout of that series. You should definitely watch that if you haven't. Great storyline. I think it would have been a much bigger movie had it been not associated with the original Exorcist, because anything that comes after that is going to kind of pale in comparison. There are so many movies that I could name.
What about
Bubba Hotep? There are just so many fantastic horror movies out there. The storylines in horror movies are just so creative and so out of the box that the movies are just really interesting, and it's kind of a shame that awards shows, I feel, have kind of turned their back on horror movies, that genre.
That's true.
But yeah, I love all of the classics, and there are other movies that I really like too. Watch the ones I just named. I
think I like thrillers more. Like, what's The Shining? Is that horror or is that thriller?
It's horror, but it's Stephen King, so it's horror.
Mm-hmm.
But also kind of a thriller. It's really, I call those type of movies campy, but when I looked up the actual meaning of campy, that's not what they are. It's just kind of a movie that is slow building, revolves more. Yeah, those are fantastic. Suspense.
Yeah,
there we go.
I like that.
The Shining is also one of my favorite movies.
It's a freaking good one.
I like those kind of movies too. Jacob's Ladder, I think, could kind of fall in between.
Well, I haven't seen it. I should probably watch it.
Yeah, you should watch it.
Okay, here's another really good question, Chaney. I think you probably have something to say about this. And this is from... I'm not even going to say it. I can't. This is a weird name. And I'm sorry.
I couldn't pronounce it either.
Yeah.
It was my...
I'm not even going to try. It's probably German or something. But anyway, this person has a good question. It says, there has been some discussion about the insignificance of LPs in this day and age because of the oversaturation of the scene. Do you think bands should focus on whole albums or release multiple singles? Chaney, expand.
What I think is that bands should play on whatever they want to play on. I don't think that you should sacrifice creativity in the name of just putting out a bunch of singles.
Yeah.
I think that the art should come first. If what you're trying to get across would go across better as a full-length album, a storytelling experience, a long journey. Write it like that. If the story you want to tell is short and you can summarize it in a single, I think you should do that.
Right.
I think there's a case for both. Albums are fantastic for major fans of a band. They're a way to create a long space or area for fans to embark in. It's an experience.
Right.
Listening to an album is an experience that you're not necessarily going to get out of multiple individual singles. If your concern is staying relevant and money and making money as quickly as possible or having as many things out there as possible, then I think that doing singles is a good thing. If you just want to put out a song, put out a single.
Well, I think the main thing here is I think we can all agree that the old school model of one album every 2 years is not good enough anymore.
Yeah. It's not good enough to stay relevant all the time.
It's not. Unless you're Tool or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But something that I've been thinking of is why not do all of the above? Right?
Yeah.
So we're working on an album, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to take like a couple weeks off. We're just going to make a quick single that's sort of like the album, put it out real quick, and then go back to doing the album. And that way you have the best of all worlds. Mm-hmm. But you can only do that if you have the freedom to do so. So meaning when you're on a label, most labels that we've worked with or talked to, I mean, not that we've ever even pitched this idea, but it seems like they're more stuck on the let's do an album cycle. It's got to be 10 tracks so we can split them up and put them on iTunes and sell them each individually. You know, you don't have a whole lot of creativity with that because that's all the stuff that I want to experiment with. Maybe it's a whole album, but it's not 10 tracks. Or maybe it's more than 10 tracks. I don't know. And I think people are definitely responding and relating to stuff like that more.
Yeah.
Than just the old school vibe.
I agree with you. I think that, like I said, there are arguments for both. There are reasons why I would want to write an album as opposed to a bunch of singles, and there are reasons why I would want to write a bunch of singles as opposed to albums. I'm going to use my friend Courtney LaPlante as an example. Because
Shout out to Courtney.
Shout out to Courtney and her husband Michael, who are wonderful people in a wonderful band called
Spirit Box. They're like the
Box.
only other couple that we know that's in like an underground metal band, correct?
That we're friends with.
Yeah.
So what they've done with Spirit Box, their band, is released a bunch of singles, and at the end of a year period, or how they released the singles as music videos individually. At the end of the year period of releasing 4 or 5 singles, they then took all of those and put it out as a collection, singles collection EP. And I thought that was a brilliant move. They're a band that's not signed to a label. They've only been around for a couple of years. They're a fantastic band. And I thought that was a really good way to start to get music out there in a way that people would want to consume it.
Yeah.
By making music videos for every single that they have.
That's cool.
Totally. I thought they did an awesome job just putting that together in the way that they've chosen to release music. So I think that's a really good thing to do with singles.
I think the whole takeaway is let's get creative.
Yeah.
Let's do whatever we feel like doing, and that's going to have the greatest impact because that's going to be the most genuine. And I believe that the more genuine that you are, the more you're going to have the connection with people that listen to your music. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're not going to have quite as many because maybe you being genuine means that you're different, but that's fine with me. As I've said a million times, I want to make music that's genuine. I want to do something cool. And I think that one of the things I'm most proud of is that that's the compliment I get, that I'm genuine, that I do my thing, and people love that stuff. So that's what I want to keep doing. And we can now do that if we're free agents or whatever. We can do that now with our releases. You
Yeah.
can do whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what people are craving these days. I am.
Me too. I think we live in one of the best times to be an artist. You do not need a record label anymore to put out music. You can operate as a free agent for your entire career. We have not done that, but I think it's amazing that there's this opportunity to cut out the middleman and for the artist to directly speak to their consumers, their fans.
Yeah.
So that's really unique, and it's a new era that we've been embarking on this new journey for. How far are we into the real internet era since MySpace? About maybe 13 years. So now you can choose to release music however you want.
Yeah.
It's completely up to you. It can completely serve your art, and people will care. If you've got a fan base on the internet, you can kind of release stuff as you want. If you know how to produce your own material, you can
exactly
move
that's a whole nother
quickly.
side of this discussion.
Yeah.
That people have been able to make their own music now. So not only can they put it out themselves, they can create it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on a extremely high quality level.
Yeah, you can. The process of writing a record and releasing it is so much quicker than it has ever been before, because you have the option to cut out jobs or people that the record needs to go through.
Exactly.
So do whatever you want with that.
Do whatever you want.
Release things how you see fit. If you want to put out singles, put out singles. If you want to make an entire album, do that. There is no right way to do art.
Exactly.
There is no right way to have people hear what you're doing. If you, as Navene was saying, if you've got a genuine product, a genuine care and love for your art, and you're putting out something that people can relate to, people are going to hear what you're doing.
Yeah.
People still talk to me about my old band Systems that I haven't been in for 6 years. It's the internet is an amazing thing. Use it to your benefit.
And patience is another thing. People look at the handful of bands that have had real quick success or what looks like fast success, but that's usually not the case. And then on top of that, even if it is, that doesn't mean that everyone can do it. But we can keep releasing stuff. We can keep putting ourselves out there in a meaningful, genuine way. And that's going to attract people. Maybe it might not be 1 million people or as many as you had hoped. But I think focusing on that is a great way to make yourself miserable.
I do think that there is a lot of emphasis nowadays because of the things that we see on the internet. We see huge bands on the internet. We want what we see. There's more of an emphasis on how can I be that big than how can I create something meaningful to myself.
And when you look at the people that have had this, what we're going to call overnight success or whatever, they weren't thinking like that most of the time. They were just saying, I want to do this cool thing that I hear in my head, or I'm just feeling this. I want to do this. And a lot of people resonated with it. So trying to model your situation based on someone else that doesn't make the same music as you do, it's kind of stupid. And I think finding your way to do it is definitely the best way to do it.
I absolutely agree with that. And lightning doesn't strike in the same spot twice.
Yeah.
It's almost certain that there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes with bands that you perceive as being overnight sensations that you have no idea about. It's just...
it's easy to think that, right?
Yeah.
Especially on the internet these days. Oh man, they look so great for them. You don't know what they've actually done.
You have no idea.
You don't even know what their real life is like. And that's sort of a reason why we wanted to do the podcast, because we want people out there that are feeling, maybe even getting to the point of hopeless, to realize that everyone who's in a band, everyone who's doing the thing that you want to do, whatever it is, they have their own struggle. and their own day-to-day stuff to deal with. And that helps to hear about it.
Absolutely. And this brings me, our friend Scott, who asked the last couple of questions, has one more question. And I want to finish this because it deals a lot with what we're talking about. He said, I just finished episode 2, loving listening to you guys, really informative. I missed out on the life I gave up too early. I was in a great band back in the day, and I got in the way of myself, anxiety and depression. Band practice and recording was super fun, but I hated being on stage. I hope to one day release the stuff I've come up with these last many years. Thank you much for taking the time to do this and shedding some light. Keep it up. And what I want to say to you, Scott, is that, like I said, this is the best time, in my opinion, to be an artist ever.
Yeah.
Because none of that stuff has to get in the way of you releasing music forever, because you can keep that music. You can record it on your own timeline. You can get it worked on down the line, and you can put that out in your lifetime without having other band members.
Right.
You can do it as a solo artist, as Navene did with Fleshrot, or Navene K.
And it's highly satisfying to do that.
And you should. I strongly believe, if any of you out there are thinking to yourselves, I'm never going to be able to release this music. I just really want to have a part in music, but I have a day job and I have kids and I have all of these responsibilities and music isn't a thing for me anymore. Stop thinking that way, because you can do anything that you put your mind to. Absolutely anything. I promise you.
You can. People do it.
People do it.
I always, when I'm faced with something that looks tricky, I just go, people do this. They do it in a harder situation that I'm in. Yeah, and I try to make myself feel lucky. And a good way that you said you could do anything, you can do it if you have a busy schedule and stuff. We work all the time.
Mm-hmm,
and we're working on a lot of stuff in our personal life. Some good stuff there, some good announcements coming. But one of the ways that I make it work is I just dedicate a little bit of time, maybe in the morning. Maybe get up a half hour earlier. Whenever you're going to get up a half hour earlier and play guitar for a half hour. And jot down some riffs in your computer for a half hour. At the end of the week, you will be amazed by how much you got done.
Absolutely.
We've said on the last episode, 20 minutes of new music. I don't even feel like I've even started on that. Mm-hmm. Because I just do it either right before I wake up, when I wake up before I go to work, or maybe when I get home, I'll just work on it for 15, 20 minutes. I have not worked on the new album for more than a maybe 1 or 2 hour block at all,
Yeah. And man, if you're feeling that way about yourself or about music, I just really, really highly encourage you to write the fucking songs and put the album out at some point in your life. It's obvious that you don't care at all about being in a working, performing band. You just want to put out music. I know that both Navene and I can relate to how it feels to just want to produce something.
Yep.
When you're an artist, if there's something bottled up inside of you and you are not producing a piece of art, it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, it sucks.
It feels like the holding a hose situation. Write the music, man. Put the record out, even if you're the only person who will ever hear it. You don't want to be on your deathbed thinking about all of the things you could have done.
And to comment on the anxiety thing, I think artists in general do get a lot of anxiety. Because for me, a battle is just overthinking everything, going back and forth. And that's the stuff that kills you. What you really want to do is get started. Just get started. Just do 15 minutes every day. And that's how you can do anything, not just music, but getting in shape or getting your finances together or whatever. I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes a day to doing this. And that's going to turn into 20. That's going to turn into 25. And then you're going to be just totally ripping it. And the thing that I started to realize this year is that with the overthinking, with anxiety, with all that stuff, it's not going away. People have the idea that you can defeat it, right? And it's a thing that you overcome. You can't. Like, I know that almost every decision that I make, I get that stupid jolt. That, you know, that jolt that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You think about doing something and you go, oh God, there's like a little anxiety that comes with it, and it sucks.
I had that feeling about this podcast.
Yeah.
We talked about making this podcast for months before we actually sat down and did it. And even after we filmed the first episode, there was this feeling like, oh man, should we really put this out? Are we crazy for doing this? Are people going to think what are people going to think?
Exactly.
But when you're on the other side of that, it just feels so much better. When you're on the other side of making the correct decision, the decision to go forth with some artistic thing that you're doing, or any other decision in life that's not artistic.
And when you read about people that seem like they're real brave, or it seems like they might be living without that little anxiety jolt with everything that they do. I think that we all get that, but you just get better at fighting back towards it. You know, you just get better at being like, okay, there's that little jolt. Fuck you. I don't care. I'm going to keep going. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like rats are mice trying to get into your house. You know, you're never going to rid the world of rats. It's never going to happen, but you can protect your house better. You can get an exterminator. You can put all these things in place to just get better at dealing with rats. Mm-hmm. But rats are never going to not be a thing. And that's the same way that I look at anxiety or bad temper, all this stuff. You just get better at dealing with it. And that's what I've started to realize about reading about people who are really brave and stuff. They're just better at dealing with it. They get the same fear. They get the same anxiety. But they're just like, fuck you, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and every decision that you make in the correct way, the correct direction for yourself, you start to become a little more confident in making those decisions over time.
It begats more of those good decisions.
If I personally would have let my mind get the best of me in quite a few life-changing decisions, I wouldn't be in Entheos. Entheos would not be a band.
Yeah.
I don't know if you and I would be together.
Right.
I don't know. This podcast obviously never would have happened. I never would have played music. I never would have become a vocalist.
Yeah.
There's so many decisions like that in life that you just have to kind of go for them, whether there's anxiety attached to it or not, whether you think that people are going to think you're silly or any of that stuff. You just have to start making decisions, and as it goes on, it's going to get a lot easier to make those decisions.
And one of the things that kills us is the all or nothing thinking. It's such a killer. And I have that problem. I won't do something unless I can be the best at it, or if I can go all in on it. You know, that's just so stupid. And the best way that I've found where I'm starting to get the most done is just do a little bit. Just do it even on a bad level. Even if I'm bad at it, I'm just going to start doing it.
Yeah, start to build that confidence.
And one of a great analogy I heard the other day, I can't remember who said it, so I'm sorry, but it's like when when you're on foot and you go out of a hotel and you have your phone giving you the directions, but it's like just spinning, the map's just spinning, it can't figure out what way you're supposed to go. Mm-hmm. You don't just stand there and watch it spin. You just start walking.
Yeah.
You just start walking, and then it starts going in the right direction. And that's what you should do. Take the step. Let's say you're really busy. Once again, I'm going to wake up 15 minutes early. I'm going to write riffs for 15 minutes. And that builds. And that's something that I think humans just don't inherently recognize. How big little stuff compounded can get. And the people that figure that out are the ones who are successful. That's what I think.
I agree with you. I agree. So yeah, Scott.
Whew, damn,
get it out there, man.
Fucking intense.
And when you make that awesome album, please send it to me, and I can't wait to hear it.
But yeah, back to the one more thing about the anxiety and the nervousness and stuff. It's like I still get nervous when we start the podcast. You know, when we start, I'm like all nervous, like, oh my God, I hope this doesn't crash and burn. But the idea is it's an exercise in getting stronger. Doing the damn thing.
Do the damn thing, man.
You want to go on this stoner doom rock one?
I actually want to ask, I don't know who asked us this, I'm sorry, but they said, would you ever consider touring with a non-death metal band?
No, absolutely not.
No. Any band that's not death metal, fuck you, first of all. How dare you not play death metal?
Not
Second
legit.
of all,
Go to hell.
I'm not going to be able to mosh to you, so I don't know.
No.
In reality, I don't think we've toured with a lot of death metal bands.
Yeah.
Of course we would tour with non-death metal bands. That's awesome. We did a tour. The first tour that's coming to mind is the tour that we did with Dillinger Escape Plan, Cult Leader, and Oh Brother.
No death metal.
Not a death metal band in sight. Oh Brother is basically the polar opposite of our band.
Yeah, or Intronaut.
Moontooth,
Yeah.
The Contortionist.
I don't think we've done much death metal touring at all.
Sleep Makes Waves. We haven't done a lot of death metal tours.
What would be a death metal tour that we did? I can't even think of one.
I can't either. I guess I wouldn't call Beyond Creation and Gorod. I would call those bands progressive death metal.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Rivers of Nile, that's progressive.
Right. But the other bands were Wolf King and Conjurer. Mm-hmm. They're not death metal.
Maybe Black Dahlia.
Yeah. That was Goat Horror, Black Dahlia. I don't really think of Black Dahlia as like a death metal band.
Me either. So, what are the death metal bands you think we have toured with?
Yeah, that's
Let us know in the comments.
The better question should be, would you tour with a death metal band?
No.
Yeah, we have started the band. The band is obviously an eclectic kind of metal sound, and it has its own original sound, I think. So we just tour with everyone, and that's something that Trevor from Black Dahlia said to us when we first started. Like, just do what we did: tour with every band in the heavy scene.
To turn down tours based solely on the genre of the bands on the tour is not something that I think we would do.
No, of course not. I think we would tour. We've toured with. I think we've done tours where we're like the only really heavy band on the tour, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we'd tour with anyone, man. Literally.
We would tour with anyone. We'd play a show with anyone. We are just trying to play. One time we played a hardcore festival in Sacramento.
Everyone stood in the back.
And everyone stood in the back because we were the only death metal band on the show. If we're death metal, I don't know. I call our band progressive metal.
It's like progressive death metal-ish.
Fusiony, jazzy. I don't know what genre our band is even. So, yeah, we consider all offers. We do not turn down tours based on the genre of the other bands. As we said before, we talk about the budget, whether or not we can afford it.
Yep.
Whether or not it makes sense for us to do, whether or not we think we'll slang merch.
Slang.
Those are all of more concern to us than whether or not the other bands are death metal.
Exactly. Okay, Chaney, I got a question for you, and maybe it'll be the last question.
Are we that far into the podcast?
We're an hour and a half deep in this bitch.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
Wow. So that Ugly Mug coffee just sent us on a tangent.
Time flies when you're on the Ugly Mug.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
For real.
All right, one more question today, and we'll save the rest of the questions for next week and the weeks beyond.
Did you express sending questions to the email?
Yes. So, you guys, thank you so much for all of the questions. I'm not even sure that I got them all written down for this week. I beg you guys to start directing your questions to our email, which a lot of you have. Thank you. It's KoperCrabb Podcast @gmail.com, spelled the way the podcast is spelled. If you have questions, we're going to start trying to filter you into there. I know I said during the first episode that we would read our private messages. Yeah. There are too many questions for us to do that.
We're still going to check it out and stuff, but it seems like stuff's getting lost, and it's maybe easier if you want to just fire a question over onto the email.
Yeah. If you have a band recommendation, anything you want to say to us, say it on the email.
All right, that reminds me. So we also want to, if you're in this community, right, and you have a cool product, something like that. I'm not talking about like paying us or anything. We've got some people sending us some beer, some CBD, some shit like that. We just want to check out the product and mention it on the show. It's not a sponsorship, nothing weird like that. We're not after your money or anything like that. We just want to give back. We want to, like I said, create the community. That's what we're looking for.
We want to promote the underground, and we want to promote shit that you guys do that's cool, that we're into.
Right.
We want to help spread the word. This is another reason we have this show, to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
It's home fucking base.
That's what we're going.
For us and for you.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you have some cool you want us to check out, coffee, shirts, whatever, send it on over. We will check it out and talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah. Please.
You can't send a shirt through email, but you can get a hold of us through email.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I wanted to mention this episode. And we will have some good beer and CBD to talk about soon.
Yes, we will.
This question is specifically more for Chaney. And it's from Nick. I think he's in the Facebooks.
Sup, Nick?
He is wondering, what was your experience in the metal scene and getting your start? As a vocalist, do you feel you have more pressure performing? How do you feel when you're compared to other vocalists, or when someone says something like, that was better than a dude? That's a good question. We haven't even talked about that yet.
That's a 3-part. So my experience in the metal scene and getting my start, I started listening to metal. I would say that I was in 7th grade, so I was probably 12. I started with System of a Down, Ozzy, all the entry level metal stuff. I started getting into new metal. I was very into Chimera back in the day. Then I started getting into more metalcore, Bleeding Through, loved that band. Martyr AD, still one of my favorite bands. And then I got more into death metal. Really, I started playing in bands through going to local shows, not national touring band shows.
Right. I bet a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I listened to this band from Des Moines. They're actually from a little outside of Des Moines, but the name of the band is Index Case. Back in the day, loved that band so much. I just watched a lot of local dudes playing, and I wanted to play music too.
That's what's so cool about local. It's like it makes you feel like you could actually be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Like when I went to see Slipknot or whatever, I didn't think I could ever be on a stage that big.
Mm-hmm. Me either. So yeah, I started pretty much the same way that everyone starts. Just went to a ton of shows, fell in love with the life, and haven't been able to get it out of my system since then. As a vocalist, do I feel I have more pressure performing? No. I feel like the drummer should have the most pressure performing.
Really?
Because if your drummer fucks up, the whole set is fucked.
That is true.
I feel like I have pretty much the same amount of pressure performing as anyone else. I, just like everyone else, want my performance to be as tight as I can make it that day. No, I don't feel like I have any more pressure than anyone else. How do I feel being compared to other vocalists? Sometimes, I don't know. I just don't really care. What is sort of annoying, and I don't mean this in a bad way toward anyone who has ever said this to me, because I totally understand why you're drawing this comparison. It's a little annoying that most of the comparisons that I or any other female vocalist is going to get will be a comparison to another woman.
Right.
The reason...
Like the only thing you have in common is that you're both girls. It's not like your vocals sound alike at all.
Right. There aren't really two women who are vocalists who I would who are like in more well-known bands who I would say sound completely alike. For instance, Arch Enemy, I obviously get that comparison a ton. My vocals don't sound like Angela Gossow's vocals or Alyssa's vocals, maybe occasionally, but we don't really sound alike.
Did they inspire you to be a vocalist, really, or no? Like some, because some people say, whether they're, if they're a girl, they'll say, "Oh, I saw so and so up there," and then that gave me the power to want to do it. Was that like that for you, or were you sort of like, "I'm doing it anyway," and then you found out about that?
I mean, Randy Blythe was really my biggest inspiration when I was a kid to get on stage and do it. The two women who were incredibly inspiring to me, Laura Nickel, Light the City, Karen Crisis of Crisis. Those, if we're talking about female-fronted bands, those are my favorites, but really those are just two of my favorite bands, metal bands that I've been into. And I don't really think that my love for those bands has anything to do with the vocalists being women. It's more that I love the bands, the vocalists happen to be women. So that comparison can get a little annoying because, my band doesn't sound like Kitty. And when you tell me my band sounds like Kitty, I know that the only thing that you're comparing is that we're women. And while I don't dislike that people are doing that, and I understand where they're coming from, I kind of would rather hear a more generalized comparison. But
like someone that you actually are into.
Someone who I'm actually into. Because my biggest vocal inspirations are not necessarily those people.
Who are they?
My biggest vocal inspirations, I would name Johnny as one. Johnny is one of my favorite vocalists, the second vocalist of Martyr AD, the vocalist of Dimmu.
Yeah, this is the worst question, by the way.
I hate this question. Yeah, because sucks. I'm influenced. Sam Carter, Architects. I take pieces from everyone that I'm into. I don't think I sound exactly like any of those people, but I take something from everyone that I listen to. If I'm really into their voice, then I'll try to match that. I just like all kinds of vocalists. I have a love for the art of screaming.
Yeah.
And so many different people influence
Melissa
me.
Cross.
Alex Arian of Despised Icon is like top tier vocalist, one of my biggest inspirations. I like, as I said on the last episode, I like a lot of mid-range, like hardcore type vocals like that. So yeah, no, it's not annoying to be compared to someone else. Yeah. People are just going to do that no matter what.
Yeah.
I take it.
And a lot of the time they just look at the first thing that they can relate to you. Right?
Exactly.
And that's an easy thing to relate.
Yeah. When people say things like that to me, I'm like, okay, this person wants to talk to me and express to me that they're into my band. And I don't give a fuck that it just, you can't let things like that get to you. Otherwise you're going to lead a miserable life.
Right. So what about the last part of the question where he's saying, well, what's it like when people say that you're better than a dude?
That's still the same thing.
Same answer. People
are going to, and I've known this since I started doing vocals because it's happened. I've been doing vocals for almost 20 years at this point. People are going to tell you sound better than a dude. Do I? I don't know. I have no fucking idea.
Depends on which dude.
Depends on which dude. And sounding better like a dude isn't really like very cool. What's cool is if you like my vocals and you like my music.
Right. That's what's cool.
That's what's cool.
Yeah, we're
so that's what I care
on
about.
The big picture here.
But dude, I don't care about any of that stuff. Say whatever you want. If you're, I just want to chat. None of that stuff bothers me.
Yeah, I know.
Who cares?
Sometimes people, I feel like, and we kind of addressed this in the last episode, they just don't know how to, and I can relate, they just don't know what to say to somebody that you really look up to.
Yeah.
I feel that way all the time.
Totally. And really, for me, I like to chat to our fans. And if you're going to come up and acknowledge my performance, I'm already grateful. I'm grateful to be there. I'm grateful that you noticed. So, man, feel free to say anything to me. I don't, unless you're calling me a bitch then, or a mean name.
Maybe makeup tips.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Or, how to curl my hair or whatever.
There you go. Well, I think that is going to wrap up episode 3 for this week. What do you
Wow.
think, Chaney?
I think that's a wrap.
We got through it. Once again, we're going to thank everybody out there for listening to the show. We got it on everywhere now.
It's everywhere. I think it's not on SoundCloud, but we will get it on there probably this week.
Right.
Also, this week, a few of you have asked us to make Spotify playlists with all of the music that we've been suggesting, and we are going to do that.
Really smart idea.
Yeah, fantastic idea. We're going to put one together this week or next week. We've got a lot of big things happening this week, so we might wait.
Next week, we got some hot news.
Hot news.
Because there's a cliffhanger every episode.
Yeah.
But seriously, like we put the podcast up on all the podcasting sites or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to. I'm not like a pro with all this stuff. Obviously,
all the podcasting platforms.
I'm sort of like a dad joke as a person, so I don't know all the correct terminology. It's up on there, and with the thing that we used to put it on there, it gives you some numbers, and we see the numbers. They're kind of growing, so that indicates that people are sharing this and that there's a little bit of a need for a place for everybody to just come hang out and blow off some steam, talk about what it's like. That's what we want to do, and we're so thankful for you guys that listen to this. It's amazing.
It's incredible.
Freaking
for
mind-blowing.
those of you who are listening, for those of you who have reached out to us and said really, really touching things to us. Thank you.
Yeah.
I am so happy that we're resonating with some of you and you're resonating with us, and I couldn't ask for anything more. I'm so happy and can't wait for this to continue to grow into a beautiful place for everyone to feel comfortable, to ask us questions, to get a little more insight on some things that they want to understand. And yeah, this has been really, really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you guys. We love y'all. Navene and Chaney checking out.
Yep. Have a great day, guys.